Hello everybody, Malakith here, and this is the semi-final of the TWCC Flash Tournament with the random 2v2 setup. So a quick rundown of the rules. So we have 12k funds, unit scale is large, they're allowed a maximum of 10 spear, pike and hoplites. They're allowed a maximum of 6 of the same unit type. There is to be no use of the push through exploit, so you can't double click to force your unit away from an enemy through it and into something behind. And there'll be no artillery in use. And joining me today is Chadman.
Good evening.
So on Team 1 we have a Kenathon as the Suabi and Turek as the Arverni, so Barbarian team, versus Gaz as Rome and Rudolph as the Iceni. So your thoughts, Chad?
Well, definitely we've seen Rudolph play the Iceni. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Gaz manages as Rome against two teams that are going to be Barbarians, because obviously there may be certain bonuses that Gaz is hoping to use against those. Obviously, there is also the fighting style of the Barbarians, might mean that he gets swarmed by them. It's going to be interesting to see how it turns out now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on our Verni builds. The Suabi, of course, having those longbows, so they normally go for a skirmisher style build. It'll be interesting to see what Turek comes up with here. Not having much experience with either seeing them or playing them. I can't really comment on the Arverni too much. Interesting, they've left a forest in.
The Battle of Samandar. And they have left the forest. That's quite a big forest over on the right hand side. But now the question is whether or not the yellow team will actually be able to get troops quickly enough into that forest.
Well, it's whether they can start there, I think, would be the key bit. If they can get a unit started in there, unless the other team have specifically counted, like they have a good awareness. You wouldn't want to put too many in there because then it becomes obvious, but you might be able to sneak 1, possibly 2 units through it. But
yeah, I mean, would it be the kind of thing where you'd sneak cavalry in there, maybe?
I'm not sure, because they're quite a visible unit and it's the sort of thing you'd expect to be in there.
Right. I mean, what you're talking about is an ambush unit, really, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe not even that. I mean, a unit of archers in there told not to fire. If they came out on the side and started chucking flame arrows into the side of a unit, that could be pretty significant without sacrificing a large portion of your fighting force.
Okay, so we're looking at Tarek at the moment. He is obviously in and setting up now.
So longbow hunters backed up by swordmasters, the standard sort of Suabi start. And then he's got some berserkers. Those guys are a small unit, but they're crazy. You don't want to be on the receiving end of them.
And you can see from the Averni, you can see quite a bit of noble horse coming in from the likes of Tarek. And you can see now he's got the Oathsworn up the front with spear nobles behind and a large number of cavalry. Looks to be at least 5 units.
Yeah, he's got no ranged units at all.
That's interesting.
If someone can hold his cavalry back and force him into a... It's the sort of thing where you'd want an Egyptian or a Greek pike player to try and pike wall out the swordsman whilst you deal with the cavalry, but obviously the other team don't have that. So we may just see, if he's facing off against Gaza, a good old infantry charge in the face from both teams.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how it turns out. We'll have to wait and see what occurs. Now, obviously, looking at this Suabi over here on the left-hand side, you can see him setting up with... He's got swordmasters up the front and longbow hunters supporting them at the rear, with a long stretch of noble riders following in behind them. One
thing that the new patch will bring is the weight of the unit depends on the depth of the ranks, so these very widely spread swordmasters wouldn't have too much of a charge effect.
Nice.
And same with pikemen. Your bracing of the pike's bonus gets depleted if you're too thin, if there's no one behind you to sort of hold you in position.
Just watching a pack of wolves run into the woods. Very nice touch. So obviously you can now see that the Averni and the Romans have now spawned in and are getting themselves set up. So you can see they're in with the slingers, followed up by the heroic nobles. He's also got his section of chariots in there. And let's see what Gaz has decided to go for. So he's gone what looks to be Praetorian Guard with Velites behind and supported by Evocati cohorts, very heavy military infantry.
Yeah, I've not really seen those used before. That may be Gaz trying out something new. I've never seen another tournament build include those.
So these guys are armed to the teeth and are very, very well armoured. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. You can see him moving his Praetorians in a kind of wedge formation.
The Triari may have been a bad choice, because they're obviously an elite and expensive unit, but there's not a lot of cavalry for them to go against, and I'm not sure how well they will hold up against swordmasters in Bloodlust.
Yeah, that's fair. Now you've obviously got Legatus over on the right-hand side, along with 3 units of Praetorian cavalry, so this would be interesting to see how it's turning out. Now, look at the layout that Gaz is actually going for the Romans here. So he's got like a staggered line formation with Velites behind him. And now you can see over on the far side, you can see now the barbarians starting to move forward in quite a significant situation towards, you can see now Rudolf doing the same thing that he did previously with the cavalry, 4 units of cavalry protected by spearmen to stop them getting rushed. So that proves to have been a successful tactic previously, and it looks like Rudolf is going down that route again now.
It looks like the Suabi are pushing across to the middle based on the orders we're seeing get thrown down. He's trying to drive a wedge in against Gaz so that some of his units can help against the Iceni. It looks like he's going to try and hold the Romans off while they batter the Iceni into the ground and then can sweep round.
So in other words, they use the benefit of barbarian versus barbarian situation.
Yeah.
But the trouble is now you can start seeing him moving lots of troops. The swordmasters starting to move away from that right flank that Gaz is moving up towards, and they could possibly risk themselves being moved in on the rear by the Praetorian Guards and the Praetorian Cavalry now.
So the Briton slingers just got rapid fire thrown down on them, so they must be in range. Yep, here they come. So they're targeting the Swordmasters at the moment. I'm not sure how effective that'll be. They're a fairly heavy unit.
Yeah, also you can see here, the Oathsworn for Turek taking a little bit of fire. They're not actually being damaged that much at the moment. These guys are absolutely fantastically well armoured. So you can see these guys moving forward in their scale mail armour and shields up to support them away from this slinger fire coming in from the Iceni. So here we go. You can now see them. Now they're looking to use the cavalry, followed up by the swordmasters, to force that wedge between the 2 troops. And you can now see it looks like the cavalry on the back here are being forced pretty heavily by the Suebi and the Averni, particularly the Averni on the right side now.
This is going to be a problem, those cavalry. If they can sneak between the Iceni and Gaz's troops, which it looks like what they're trying to do, they'll be in behind them.
Yeah, now the thing is whether or not those guys there can then follow up with the swordmasters behind means that they could be in a situation where they get in behind the Roman troops, and that would give them a major problem. You can see now, look at the Averni moving in, and the Suebi also starting to push pretty hard. So you can see Turek moving in with his heavy melee cavalry. You've got the spearmen defending the cavalry. You've got another
going for the general.
Cavalry.
The Suabi is using his cavalry to go for the general, which is what I thought he might do.
So that would be the general in the chariot, yeah?
Yep, the general's in the chariot, and he's going to catch a heavy cavalry rider in the side of the face in a minute. Spotted
there we go,
too
he's
late.
now moving out. But you've now got the Briton slingers who have actually turned their position to try and engage that cavalry that's running in behind him, and you've also got veteran riders coming in from the opposite direction to try and take out those noble riders as they're trying to take out his general. So what they're hoping to do is break the army before they can do anything, as now you can see it looks like the
Suabi general is taking hits. Gaz is focusing it.
Suabi is now trying to make a push through this central point in between the 2 teams, and now Gaz is having to defend himself on 2 fronts.
Yeah, he's focusing down the enemy general, which is a good tactic. He's hitting from the side with his 2nd unit of Evocati cohort. But this cavalry that snuck around is going to get right into his Velites. He needs to deal with that now. I don't think he's got anyone in the area to do so. So here goes Gaz's ranged units.
You can see now Torek moving in, going after the general. As you can see, the veteran riders coming under fire. The Oathsworn moving into the chosen spear band. As you can see, these chariots trying to move behind the cover that will be provided by the cavalry, the veteran riders, as they're moving in to engage. Now the rest of his army gets jumped by the noble horse from Tarek at the same time as the other noble horse is coming in from the front. And this is a very knotty situation for Rudolph here. Can he extract himself from this situation now?
So Gaz's Triaria just taking down that cavalry that are routing his archers, but I think the damage is done there. The Iceni player, as you said, he's thrown in his chosen spearband, but it's against Oathsworn, so that will likely collapse. He needs to get that cavalry out on the flank round and into something quickly. He's got some good positioned units on that flank there, but he needs to use them whilst they're going to actually impact the battle and not just crush one unit and then the rest of him dies horribly.
Yeah, now you can obviously see that the heroic riders and the chosen spear band moving up on the far left-hand side to try and outflank those noble horse from Tyrek, and you can now see it's not looking good for Rudolph as his veteran riders are starting to break as they're coming under fire from the Oathsworn and the noble horses. So this could be a very knotty situation, as now you've got a combination of noble riders from Mechanathon in behind the lines of Gaz. Gaz now trying to deal some fire and damage against the Swordmasters, which is starting to make them waver. And you can see Praetorian Guard from Gaz now wavering as they got taken out by Berserkers.
Yeah, Berserkers beat both of those Praetorian Guard units heavily. I think he underestimated the Berserkers quite considerably there. He has managed to grab the Noble Riders on the flank, but I'm not sure how Praetorian Cavalry will hold up against that. His Triari seem to be losing to the Swordmasters horribly. The Swordmasters yet to lose a single man. The Triari down to 90 out of 120.
Yeah, the Praetorian Guard in the centre also having trouble again with the Berserkers. 59 versus 20, the Berserkers currently at 20 of 60, but you've still got the Praetorian Guard in the centre. They're not being attacked. Whether or not they'll go to the aid of the Vokatai cohorts, but Gaz will have to wait and see, as now you can see the Averne moving in against, the Suebi, I think is moving in and taking down some of the Briton slingers, as now they're moving back, as this is a very, very difficult situation for Rudolph over here on the right hand side. His chariots are getting involved, and you can see over on the far left hand side the Oathsworn are going up against the Chosen Spear Band. You can see now that the other Chosen Spear Band is now broken as a result of going after the Oathsworn, and this is not a good situation as far as Rudolph is concerned. He is under attack from all directions. It's a bit scrappy here on the left hand side, and let's see what's going on with Gaz now.
Yeah, Gaz seems to be winning his cavalry fights. It's going to be, it's not going to be a quick fight, but he does seem to be winning one of them, and the other seems to be a draw, although he has just dragged one unit out to charge the rear of another, which is kind of risky, but he kind of had to do it as Swordmasters have come in. He's just losing his Triari there against the Swordmasters. I think he's just underestimated a few of the units that he's gone in against. The Berserkers, there's one Berserker left. He's still happily chewing through some of these Praetorians in the process. But
there we go, down goes the Berserker, as we're now looking at Swordmasters, they're also in there. But what he's managing to do is Kennethan is using these longbow hunters to just pour fire into the remaining troops of Gaz to try and break the back of them. Yeah, and you look over on the right hand side, you can also see Rudolph's in serious trouble now.
Just looking at Kennethan's archers, he's focusing this Praetorian cavalry unit because that's the one that's going to be able to catch him. You can see the flame arrows coming in. He's just trying to bring them down before they get to them. But the Iceni players, the Alverni just got in behind, took out his ranged units. There's just too much cavalry for him to deal with. I think his micromanagement of his spearmen ending up against Oathsworn probably collapsing in that flank a little bit. Gaz is losing the right flank. It's going to end up in a big brawl in the middle, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a big scrum in the centre very shortly, as now you can see the longbow hunters starting to come under pressure from the Vokatai cohort, the Praetorian Guard, and a great big huge melee section now moving up, and we've obviously got the another Vokatai cohort going in, and there we go, the Praetorian cavalry going in against the longbow hunters, and then obviously he'll be going after the other longbow hunters as well. But now you can see situation very, very not good, I suppose you could say, for poor old Rudolph, as he is now literally running from multiple cavalry coming in from the Dwaby and also from the Alverni.
Yeah, there's another 2 units of Alverni chasing Gaz's Praetorians, who are desperately trying to bring down these longbow hunters. The 3rd unit of them just outrunning the Avocati quite happily because they're just too heavy. They just can't keep up. They're exhausted. They're not going to be effective fighters at all. Those longbows are just going to kite them around quite happily. Suadi cavalry winning the flank. The Alverni, of course, free to do whatever they want now, pretty much. They've still got a huge amount of cavalry left.
Yeah, and it looks like they're now bringing that cavalry, the noble horse, in to try and deal some damage onto Gaz's Praetorian cavalry. He's got about a third of the number. He's trying to move the spear infantry and the triarii over to support. You can see right here in the centre of the Evocatai starting to take some fire, as also they're now moving in to go up against the noble riders. And you've also got, by the looks of it, let's see who's this, triarii coming under fire. You can also see there's heavy chariot, the general of the Iceni is still moving in, and Harbour's left the game.
That was a spectator.
Oh, right, okay. So I wasn't sure if that was what was going on there. So you can now see it's not looking good. So now Gaz is literally being encircled. You can see these people over here. The Iceni is still taking fire as these heavy chariots are moving in. They really need to try and take out those longbow hunters as they're not taking. There we go, they're going to push in and try and take out some of those longbow hunters, give some support to Gaz. But Gaz, I think, is looking like he's outnumbered, as you can see, massively outnumbered. He's only got a small amount of triarii. He's still got the Evocatai. Now the Praetorian Guard is about to be hit from the rear by the noble horse, and the Praetorian Guard also coming under massive amounts of fire as he's still working with the triarii. But I don't think there's going to be a lot he's going to be able to do as the Oathsworn is moving towards them, and he's still got more Oathsworn coming up, acting in additional support.
Yeah, there's just too many enemies. I mean, there's three, are they full units of Oathsworn? One of them's depleted, one of them's at half strength, one of them's nearly full though. There's still massive units of cavalry around for the Arverni at least. He's just running out of units.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the case. Even though these Oathsworn are absolutely knackered, they are still at least there available for him to use. So we're looking at a situation where a little bit of a buff going in there, as now you can see noble riders starting to break, looking pretty good. But now the trouble is this is not looking good for Gaz. As you can see, also his Evocatai now losing so many numbers up against those Swordmasters. So the Swordmasters doing a great job taking down the Evocatai. They've now broken and going away from the battlefield. As you can see in the centre of the chariots, Rudolph's chariots, he's just lost his general. The noble riders now moving in, and I think it's fair to say it's all over.
Yep, that's it, all over. We've just got the Swordmasters. I know, that's still fleeing even though they've won. It's a bit strange.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, we're victorious, quick, I want to run home.
So there you have it. Look at those kills. So obviously Torak in there with 1,102 kills, and Akhenaton in with 1,068. Gaz unfortunately killing 843, and Rudolph with only 620 kills. So unfortunate there for Rome and the Averni. They were unsuccessful in this battle.
So just looking at Gaz's stats, all three of his ranged units, 5 kills, 2 kills, 0 kills. They just got jumped by that cavalry and just did nothing. That gap right through the middle of the two armies was probably the downfall of the archers on both teams, on both sides of that fight. He's got a unit of cavalry with 0 kills. His general's got 0 kills. Probably that cavalry that's managed to sneak through the middle and get behind their lines was just the game decider, really. It's so early on in the fight as well.
Yeah, that was unfortunately the case when they kind of split their armies up a little bit. You don't really want to have any kind of gap, especially to be used against you where the cavalry are concerned. Very nasty situation.
So that's Gaz and Rudolph out, and Akhenaton and Tuareg go through.